sunscreen on so you don't get so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a good idea.
6 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't try it.
Is your microphone on?
I think so.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
So
there we go.
Hi guys.
Hello, everybody.
Ooh.
What?
It jumped. That's all.
Yeah.
The screen.
Let's see if it kicks us off again.
Oh, I forgot. Did that.
Yeah.
Good times.
So we're having a tanning conversation right now. Like that's odd.
Well, I've never been I can't tan. Like I'm just like repel the sun. Like it hates me. Right. But what's funny is that I've always been kind of like, I'm obviously fair skinned and light eyed, but I put some makeup on and it's darker than it used to be. And I think because I've been indoors so much that little bit of sun that I used to get is now.
Right.
So now I feel like I have like way darker face than I normally do.
Right. And then I go outside one time over this whole event and I'm fried. I'm burnt.
Peeling. And you're peeling and still tan.
Yeah,
like it's amazing. Like I don't understand that.
Well, I don't know about amazing. But
I've never been able. We were talking about all the different ways I used to try and tan. Right. So I've done the tanning salons, like the beds, the spray tans, the home tans, the everything, lay out by the pool tans. And me, who glows in the dark, have to have pre-cancer, like pre-skin cancer stuff removed. How does that even happen?
I don't know.
So, yeah, my chest. Because I think because I don't tan, like I just never worn sunscreen, but you probably never worn sunscreen either.
No. And for the longest time, whatever they were using, I was allergic to it. So my face would swell. I couldn't breathe. My eyes would swell shut.
There's certain ones that, an allergy to it.
Yeah. I was 100% allergic to it. So it wasn't, once I had that problem, I never used it.
Yeah.
I probably should, but never did.
I have to learn to accept the fact that I just can't really go in the sun. I will never be able to tan again. I guess I could spray tan, but is it even worth it at this point?
I don't know.
It's just
the smell would be.
I know. I don't like the smell.
Yeah.
Or even the feeling, or then you get like the orange nails.
The orange anything. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no
orange
idea.
Dry skin.
The orange. You'd be like a female Donald Trump.
Oh, great.
That's good.
I just pile my hair on. That windblown look.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be
but
good.
Just my eyes will be white.
Right.
But the rest of me's orange.
Yeah. And you got to keep the inside of your ears wet. Anyway, so
Halloween.
By product of not going outside and being sunburnt, we spent all weekend watching a bunch of different shows.
Yeah, we didn't go outside this weekend.
Right. So
feeling it today. I feel a little poopy today.
Yeah.
Probably need a little vitamin D tomorrow.
It's Monday. Regardless of what environment we're in, it's still Monday. There's something about it.
Of the days a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. That's easy to do. It's not hard to lose track of the days when you don't have a reason to. Like there's no reason to keep track anymore. So it's a weird deal.
Spray tan.
Yeah. So the we ended up watching. So for people who haven't watched some of our previous videos, we are huge fans of a TV show called Person of Interest.
Yes.
Right. And
we've talked about it a few times now.
Yeah.
So
and
clearly we're friends.
Love that show. And then we over the weekend watched a show called America's Book of Secrets.
Yes. Which we've seen before, but I think like we must not have seen this episode or.
Yeah. I don't know how we missed this one. Anyway. So there's
like each episode has a different like book of secrets. So like one of them was Scientology, which is.
That's weird.
Yeah. And we can go into that later.
We can talk about that a little bit later. Yeah. So it's season 1, episode 2, I believe is it's the Big Brother basically. And they go into all the details that are on Person of Interest and they're real. They're like real.
Fed his
it's
I can't even call it a conspiracy because he'll yell at me and be like, it's real.
It's not. It's no longer a conspiracy. Big Brother is as real as it gets. This tripped me out. So I had not seen. I've known that things have occurred. We know the Snowden reports. We know
NSA guys that have come out.
Yeah, we know like stuff retired. Like that. But to see the technology being implemented in the way that the Person of Interest show had portrayed it in a drama, like to see it in real life was a trip for me. Like I I've known about it. I've understood it. But to hear an executive from the NSA say that we have your information and we want more.
Well, and the thing that hit home a little bit, I mean, we have Verizon, but when they said Verizon, he's like, Verizon sends in all of your call logs, all of your things, it's like 100 million people. And I was like, is that real life? Like, as much as I watch the shows and I know that there's a really great chance that a lot of this is happening, like I'm still like slightly in denial, slightly have this mindset of like, yeah, whatever. I don't have anything to hide.
Right.
But I also am like on the other side about like privacy rights. So to watch this and hear this stuff, I was like, oh shit, like I can't, it's harder and harder to deny it.
Yeah. And
then it just feeds you.
What's really weird about the show. So when you watch the person of interest, there's these little boxes that pop up on people's faces and it's hash marked across and it's a box that has little squares on the outside. And then on the show, they use the exact same feature
in colors. Like it was like,
it
looked like it was from the show. It was so weird.
What's up, Autumn?
So, hey, Autumn.
So yeah, it was weird to see that. Definitely when we started watching it. So, we also watch a show called, Curse of Oak Island.
Yeah.
And there's a guy on there. His name's Dave Blankenship. He's an older dude, who's injured and he's
like lived on the island
his entire life.
Yeah.
Like, so we watched it and it was about American terrorists, like domestic terrorism.
Yeah, and his picture was the thumbnail.
And I thought that there was something.
Sorry, there's a hummingbird in the window.
I thought that there was something to Dave Blankenship got in trouble or something.
I was like, no wonder he lives in Nova Scotia if he's a terrorist.
Right. He's like,
he's not allowed in America.
Yeah.
But it was false.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with him. He just happened to be, he's a figure of the History Channel and they used his picture as the
thing. It had to have been.
It was kind of a trip, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were, how many did we watch those? 3 of them. So we watched the terrorist one, we watched the Big Brother one, and then we watched the Scientology one, which if anyone's ever seen like the Leah Remini one, that's special. Scientology is a creepy cult. Yeah. Like how it's even legal and they're like, don't pay taxes because it's a religion. Like there's nothing religion based about this. It is 100% like brainwash, mind control, mess with you shit.
Right. So
it's crazy.
If you haven't heard of Scientology, you should definitely look into it. It's really strange. And they use this book that L. Ron Hubbard wrote,
Dianetics,
called Dianetics, and it was the #1 bestseller when it came out. And the guy's a science fiction writer. Like he didn't write anything but science fiction. And then all of a sudden he comes up with this dielectric thing. That basically what they do is they brainwash you through use of a lie detector, a version of a lie detector.
It like break you down, try and like numb you to things. But I mean, there's a lot that goes into it though.
Yeah. And
the Leah Remini one is really good.
Yeah. If you get a chance, watch that Leah Remini show. She escaped Scientology and
speaks out against it now.
She stands strongly against Scientology, and it's
there are so many celebrities that are a part of it though. Like we don't watch anything Tom Cruise anymore because I feel like he is part of the problem.
Yeah.
Plus, I just 100%. Don't really like him. But we don't.
Well, Tom Cruise is garbage to begin with. He's never been good.
Like John Travolta, like we've now gotten to a point where we don't really watch anything where we feel that they are part of
supporting
because their
some sort of
income
agenda.
Is going towards this, and there are like so many horror stories that come out of these like buildings and schools and just all of it. It's so crazy,
right? And the celebrities, when they get into the Scientology thing, they have their exclusive clubs, so they're treated completely different than the average Joe that goes in. So they, the celebrities give them millions of dollars annually, hundreds of millions, and from what they're saying, they kind of just exist in their own bubble of Scientology. So they're not really part of the normal processes that like me or you would go through.
But then they kind of get trapped in it from the way it sounds because they go in and you have like part of what this like the clearing or whatever it is where you have to go in and you have to basically spill your guts based on this little tachometer thingy, and you spill your guts. And so now Scientology has these secrets about you.
Right.
Or your childhood or whatever you've done or haven't done. And how do you leave that
Yeah, you're
knowing that they have this information on you and it's filmed. Like,
right.
no,
So when you go in to do these sessions, what they call the clearing, it's supposed to clear your mind to connect you to the other world or whatever their version of the story is. And they put you in a room and you make you hold these little metal panels. Like, have you ever been to an arcade at like a circus? It's those little things that you squeeze until the shock, until you can't handle the shock anymore.
They look like cans.
It's similar to that. And you just hold them, and basically you were told to spill every last detail of your life to them.
But
and then
go ahead.
And you repeat these things over and over again to eventually become numb to whatever it is, that emotion that's risen from this thought or memory. But then what ends up happening is they use that thing against you. So you get so accustomed to this dielectric machine that Dianetic machine. Dielectric is how we test
the
oil.
Machine is
That's
something. It's called something different. I don't remember the name of it.
Anyway, so they hook you up to this machine, and you become like almost like brainwashed by the machine because you trust the machine so much. Well, then they try to catch you in a lie, and then they force you to believe the lie. So or at least confess to it. I don't know. It's a trip.
So, like, what do you think the difference is between? I mean, clearly there's differences. So I'm not saying it to that specific, but like Catholic confession, like you go in and you confession, like that's the way that they're trying to sell it. Is that by you like purging your sins or purging this, we're going to make you a better person.
So the concept behind it is the same. Basically,
But there's no God, I guess. They're not talking God.
No, I don't think they refer to a God.
It's the universe within you.
But the difference is, so as far as I know, I've never been in a confession booth. But I don't think they're videotaped or recorded. I mean, unless they're investigating the preacher for molestation, they record it.
They do. Or you're just making that up?
I'm making that up. I really don't know.
Like, that's not real life.
But I would imagine that it's more in confidence.
Yeah.
Right. So like if I go to a preacher or minister or, you're a spiritual leader and you have a conversation, it's typically a conversation in private that you have between you, your preacher, and your higher power.
Yeah.
This is a conversation you have between you, a mediator, a machine, a video recorder, a tape recorder.
Yeah. Like it's all over.
Yeah, it's not really.
Sean is saying that Leah Remini's trying to expose it, which she is. And if you watch the special, I mean, there's a compound that's down in Southern California near like the Paris kind of area, like Moreno Valley. And there's like barbed wire fences. Like you literally have to escape. It's not like, hey, I decided this isn't for me anymore. It's been real. I'm going to head out. It's not like that. Like you really like have to escape. And one of the things was like husband and wives, like if you talk poorly against the church, you're expected to report your spouse, which blew my mind. So your loyalty is more towards this church, which isn't a church, like this organization, than your own spouse. And there was like a husband that escaped. He left his wife, he left his kids, he left everything, knowing he probably would never get to see them or talk to them again. But the wife was actually having the same feelings and doubts, but they couldn't talk about it. Right. So and
then she eventually escaped.
Yeah, she ended up getting out too. But
so they both ended up escaping. But they didn't do it together. They did it individually.
I just wonder what they've done to like is in retaliation, because you hear all these stories about the church and retaliation and private investigators, and they follow you, and they're probably going to come knock on our door and like.
Right. So one of the things that Scientology does is they intimidate you into staying. So basically they will do whatever they have to do, whether it's follow you home or, they'll call your place of employment.
Yeah. Discredit you.
Anything to make you look like a lesser human, so that they can push their agenda and keep you enlisted in their program.
Yeah. It's a cult. It's 100% a cult.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of, without getting too graphic, there's camps. So there's camps that they send these. So as a child, you were removed from your parents and you were sent to a camp, and you stay at these camps and they brainwash you. And then they have what they call a KR, or a knowledge report, which is basically you ratting on somebody who's talking out against Scientology. So they indoctrinate these kids at a young age, and then it's and they don't allow them to see their parents. The parents, this is how they get away with it. The parents give permission for these kids to go to these camps. And the kids, because they're kids, don't have the right to say, I don't want to be here.
Right.
Well, your parents said you're going to do this. So here you go. You're stuck.
Yeah.
So it really is a tragic situation.
It's worth looking into, especially like, I think the cult side of it kind of fascinates me because it's like the psychological impact that it has. It's just, and the fact that it is right. They have like, who knows how many members, because that number is always overinflated, I'm sure. But they have like millions and millions of dollars in real estate all over the world, billions.
Yeah,
they have
billions of dollars.
So much money and so much power, and they're not taxed because of their religious, how do you end up bringing this thing down? How do you really put a stop to it? Like, it's right there. It's on corners. And that whole anonymous thing was kind of cool. How Anonymous tried to call him out, and
I absolutely
that was a few years ago.
I absolutely love Anonymous. They've done some really wonderful things for the public.
Well, in the past, they haven't done as it's like you don't hear about them anymore.
Yeah.
But for a while there, they were a cool little.
So Anonymous, if you happen to be
group.
wiretapping the NSA thing and you catch this, please come back to life. I enjoy what you do. Anyway,
it's just exposing things.
So anyway, apparently, according to Pops, he's saying that
the gossip stand. So I think it's the tabloid section of the grocery store checkout.
Yeah. So apparently Tom's starting to speak out. I don't know, maybe not against it, but maybe he's admitting.
Love to hear that.
Maybe he's admitting some things that are going on, which would be interesting to find out.
If he turned against them?
If Tom Cruise turns against Scientology, I would imagine their collapse is not far behind.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of other celebrities, though. Yeah, but Tom Cruise is definitely the poster child.
He's the poster child.
But so when he got divorced from Katie Holmes, she left because she didn't want their daughter to be raised in it. And we talked about this. Like, I wonder what kind of impact, because the church has unlimited funds. Like, I wonder how hard they went after her. What ended up happening with it? You don't hear anything about Katie Holmes or Surrey anymore. Like, what? I just wonder. And not that it's any of our business. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's really not any of our business. But it'd be interesting to know what kind of impact that it's had.
Right.
The church on the divorce.
Well, and people going missing and like children going to these camps is not a new thing. So the current president of Scientology's wife has been missing from public for 5.5 years or 6.5 years.
It was like 6 years, but I don't know when that was filmed. So I mean, if she hasn't come,
maybe she's come back since that thing
but
aired.
Apparently there's law enforcement that said that they've talked to her and seen her or something. Yeah. But if they're part of the church,
but if
then
they'll lie for them, right? Yeah. Which is that's I don't know, that whole Scientology thing.
I remember being scared that you weren't even like, if you even said the word Scientology, or you like that they were going to come after you, or they were going to tap your phones or something. Like there was just this like fear of the group. And now I think Anonymous brought that out, where it's like,
yeah. What happened was Anonymous did that protest that Scientology is not a church, it's a cult. And they stood across the street from one of their main
they followed people home,
but so Scientology ended up following some of the people home, and then they stalked them, stayed there overnight, took pictures of them, figured out where they worked,
saw their faces,
and ended up trying to cause a lot of problems for these people that were protesting against Scientology. It's a joke.
It's just,
I mean, they are 100% the definition of a cult. Like
it's a smart, well done, organized cult. It's not like, I mean, as much as it does have a crazy leader, it's not the hippie kind of in the middle of the desert cult or Heaven's Gate.
Well,
it's just well done.
Yeah. Well, what's weird? So remember, we watched that. Oh God, what was it called?
Are you talking about the India guy?
Yeah, the guy from India.
Wild Country.
Mm-hmm. That was an interesting. See, the thing is,
it's a scam too. I mean, it's all
right. But the interesting part of Wild Country is the principle behind it.
Mm-hmm.
The fundamental values of their group is exactly what I've been saying. Off the grid, screw the government. We do our own thing.
Right. Peace, love, and happiness.
Peace, love, and happiness. We live in our, like, just
we'll take care of
we
ourselves.
Leave you alone. You leave us alone. And in principle, that is exactly what I've been saying I want to do.
Right.
And it was that. That original cult that it turned into be was not a cult. It was really
more like
was
a community
just
of people.
Right. It was
at first
a community of people who wanted to live and work together.
They also believed that guy was like
more
powerful.
And that's where it got weird.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
so there's a weird part of that where you have the leader dude, which I can't remember.
Guru guy, whatever dude. He was.
Yeah. And then the lady,
the chick, he's like second.
I don't know. And then they started shooting people and not shooting people, and I don't know. That whole thing got weird. But I mean, the original principle behind it,
right, the ego and the power gets to it too,
right?
But
100%. Hi, Gina.
Hi, Gina.
So it's it's a weird deal.
We've watched a few cult things.
Yeah.
Well, because they're interesting. I think the psychological side and like who's susceptible to it. And I mean, look, I'm not going to get into the like organized religion side of it, but it's like not super far off in the fact that like there's certain people that gravitate towards certain beliefs or certain leadership or whatever. And so I think it's interesting to see,
no cult people. I mean, maybe there are some smaller cults or smaller groups, but like no major cult you've ever heard of starts out saying, "Oh, we're going to destroy the human race and we're going to commit suicide when this is all done." Like, that's not how they start. They usually start, and typically a lot of these cults will start with the principle of a good idea, something that probably will resonate with quite a few people.
Right. Like self, improvement things.
Yeah, which is what Dianetics, whatever.
Well, a lot of them. I mean, even Heaven's Gate and stuff. But you always have the one crazy narcissist that thinks they know what's best for everyone.
That's usually where it all goes wrong.
Yep.
There's usually a guru or somebody that's been spoken to by some supreme being, or
and it's usually a male who gets to have relations with as many girls as he wants.
Right.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a red flag.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Maybe I don't know cult history. I'm not like a huge follower of cults, but I don't know of a cult that's ever been run by a woman.
I'm sure there's, that'd be interesting. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe that will be my research.
Yeah. We have to figure that out. I don't know that because I've never heard of that. Like you hear of like Charles Manson. That was a cult following.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then you have this L. Ron Hubbard.
Right.
Okay. You have the
Heaven's Gate guy. There's
the guru dude from India with Wild Country. Like,
there's the other one who had a compound. What about the Waco guy? That was a compound.
And he was.
That was a
dude.
That was a cult.
Yeah, he's a dude.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna.
We'll have to figure that out.
So this is. Remember, this is in like the news today. Like, not like literally today, but this year. That Idaho lady and that guy.
Yeah.
So she may not be like the leader of the cult, but there's that Idaho mom who went missing. They ended up finding them in Hawaii, and she was arrested. I guess she's been arrested now, but he's not. Do you remember the details of it?
Yeah. Okay. So what happened was at one point the kids went missing. No one had seen them for a while.
Like 17 and 12 or something like that.
Yeah, a little bit older kids. They had gone missing. So the police or authorities went to the house. They asked about the welfare of the children. They said that they were at like an in-laws or grandparents or something.
Yeah, visiting family in like Arizona. From Idaho.
They never could get a hold of the people that they were supposedly with, but they
said that the kids had not been there.
Right.
So then they went back to Idaho to find out what the heck's going on, and then the mom and the dude were gone.
Yeah, I don't. This isn't one of those stories. You followed it more than I did.
Yeah. So let me see if I remember, because I have the worst memory. But so what happened is when this kind of just opened up the box of like, okay, something's going on, like. It's just like the things weren't adding up. So then it finds out. So the woman and the guy was part of this cult, we'll say cult. And now the woman was convinced that she's like a goddess or something. And she's like all powerful and whatever.
Right.
So as they're looking into it, they find out that the woman's ex-husband was like killed, or her husband at the time
died under
suspicious,
suspicious circumstances.
Then the cult guys,
which by the way, update to that, the brother's been arrested.
Oh, that's
we
good.
saw that like, I don't know, a week or two ago. The brother had been arrested for something that they didn't disclose whether it was related to the case or not, but it was right after they had exhumed the body.
So she ended up having like her brother kill her husband at the time. She runs away with Cult Guy. Cult Guy's wife died mysteriously, so they were exhuming her body as well.
Right.
Then there was another family member, like a brother or somebody that was killed. Somebody else was killed. I mean, so there's like all these dead bodies. They're missing.
Right.
The last thing that they know about the kids is they were at Yellowstone, and they went with both kids and only one left. So they don't know where the other one's at.
Okay. Yeah. So
it's just so weird. And it all comes back to a cult.
So that Yellowstone thing it came up when we were talking about it 2 weeks ago or whatever that was. Mm-hmm. So the authorities have actually asked the public for every photograph taken in this like window. And they only have visual evidence of one after Yellowstone.
Yeah.
The other one hasn't been seen since Yellowstone.
But neither one of them are known. Like nobody knows where they're at.
Nobody
since
knows
like
where either
September.
One of them is. Right.
So it's just weird. And it comes down, Koresh in Waco. That's right.
Yeah. So that.
Oh yeah. In Jamestown.
The whole cult thing is the cult thing is fascinating to me because for me, it's the psychology, the human mind is
me too.
Like it's how we can be programmed to believe anything at any given point.
Especially if you're vulnerable, right? I mean, there's different stages of life that you are just more susceptible to it.
Right. And you will.
People who like Oprah.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I mean, I'm not kidding.
No, that's true. It's the same concept. I mean, it really is because it's
a cult following too.
Yeah. So it's weird to see like how these things happen. Like, cause you hear the stories about the guys who fall into these cults because they have shown signs of social distancing, not our version, but like the old version
where about the members.
Yeah. Like
you hear those withdrawn
right,
or
completely withdrawn. They are totally just different humans.
They feel like they don't really belong anywhere.
Right. They don't really fit in to society. And so those are the normal people that you see fall victim to cults.
Or like people that like just got out of a breakup, or they, don't really have anything, or they lost their job, or they have a strange relationship with their parents. I mean, there's so many different reasons.
But then there's cults like Wild Country or Scientology that average people show up to.
Yeah.
Like, how does that work? How do you go? Like, I think
it's
so strange.
So let's say like you've been on this spiritual journey, right? And kind of figuring out what works for you and what really speaks to you. If you were to go to a class or a meditation, a group meditation or something like that, and somebody speaks and you're just so like, wow, this really spoke to me. And then you go again, and then you go again. And on the surface, it's always safe, right? It's always like, wow, he really made me think, or, oh, this is deep, or, oh, I felt this, or, oh, whatever it is. But as you get further and further into it, that's when the crazy starts to happen.
Right. But you're right. And I think it's totally
like the frog in the water, every time.
Right. And I totally understand that. Like that totally makes sense that's how it would go, right? Like you feel comfortable, you feel safe, and you get a little bit deeper into that water every time. However, like for me personally, and again, this isn't the majority, but for me personally, like I believe in so much and nothing at all at the same time. So like it would take a really convincing cult leader for me to believe anything. Like,
well, you question everything.
Right.
Not in a bad way, but like in a why.
Like I believe in the higher power. I believe in a singularity universe. I believe in the spirit, but not in the way that we're taught in most cases. Like, I believe in a lot of historical references in the Bible. I believe that there are some accuracies that were there, so like I'm all over the board when it comes to that. So it would take a really, really convincing dude, probably under hypnosis, to get me, you know what I mean? Like, it's not something that I would easily fall victim to, because I don't like Buddhism. For me is what works right now. Yeah. But there's 7 different versions of Buddhism, but there's also certain things that I appreciate from Christianity, from what's the one that we just
There's
did?
Hindu too.
Yeah. There's a lot of the things that I value from all religions. Not like even Muslim has some things that are like if you apply them
Christian like base.
Right.
Yeah.
If you apply some of their principles and some of their historical value to your life, like they're good.
Right.
So for me, it's a little bit different. But I can imagine someone in my state.
But you're such an extreme person that if something really spoke to you, I could also see you being like, "This is the best thing I've ever heard. I'm going to go read 14 books about it and watch every documentary, and I'm going to go on a 6-month retreat." Like I could see you doing that too.
Right. But that's kind of what happened with the Buddhist book, like that no nonsense
Guide to Buddhism
for beginners. That one.
Yeah.
Like when I read that book, like I'm telling you, it changed my life. Like that's not a made up. That literally did, because it
did.
It literally stopped some of the negative things, some of the cloud that was there, and it allowed me to process information in a way that I could handle it. I'm not good at that.
Yeah.
I've never been good at that. I've never been good at processing internal negativity, but that book literally taught me how to at least take a different approach to the same problems I've always had.
So you want to sell everything and go on a Buddhism tour with me?
Yes.
Now you'll go to Thailand. You've been so anti-Thailand for so many years, and now it's like I feel like I might be able to get you to go with me. Northern Thailand, not southern.
Yeah, no. I do have a little bit more of a gravitational pull towards Thailand than I did before. 100%.
And seeing like the history of things.
Yeah, but also to be able to, I think my appreciation for the Buddhist, it's not a religion. The Buddhist mentality, philosophy is pretty deep. And to be able to see it in practice on a daily basis from the people who live that life, I think would be way
to be around
super
it,
impactful for me. Yeah.
But like we watched that show, what's the Morgan Freeman show? God. Wasn't it? There's some Morgan Freeman.
I think it's called The Story of God. The Story of God.
Yeah. And so what he does is he goes around to a whole bunch of different places and different belief systems. And he kind of like asks questions and he learns from things. And he's so gracious everywhere he goes. Yeah. He's such an open book. And he grew up in the South with very religious, I don't remember if he was Baptist but very strong religious beliefs. Right. And now that he's older, he's kind of gone to all these really cool places, and to be able to go on that kind of journey and just learn different things from different cultures, I think that was a pretty fascinating show too. And it's Morgan Freeman. Like, who doesn't love listening to him?
That's it. Yeah. I mean, Morgan Freeman could talk about dog shit and I'll listen.
Yeah.
It's just, he's just got that voice, but
and he has such an appreciation for that journey that he went on.
What's really cool about the way Morgan Freeman put that show together is he, even as far-fetched as some of the concepts are, you still see him take a piece of it away. Yep. Like he still figures out how that religion can speak to him, or maybe it's how it maybe speak to him in his own way, not necessarily in the way that they have it.
Well, like afterlife was one of the things, he grew up with thinking afterlife was one thing, but going to all these different places and listening to these different beliefs, like he was able to kind of take away his own ideas and his own feelings of what it is.
Right.
So
yeah, that's if you get a chance to watch, it's on Netflix. It's called The Story of God. It's a picture of Morgan Freeman sitting in front of a church. I think it's a great show, and it's not like super preachy or anything. It's just like you take a tour around the world and like learn different things about different cultures and religions. So he basically goes around and takes different aspects of our Western culture and what we understand God to be, and he takes his version of that and he travels the world to try to understand other people's
history. He goes into
a lot of history,
a lot of underground things in like Israel, right? Like, I mean, he tries to find the original birthplace of Jesus and things like that. Like, so he goes on this like journey in general. It's a good show.
It's a super good show.
And it's like easy watching too. Like if you were cooking or something and wanted to put it on, like you could.
Right.
But there's also a lot of really neat visual things too.
Yeah. If
because
you
of the different countries.
I love those kind of shows. Like to me,
Mhm.
history and religion are two things that I didn't know I loved as much as I do. Like I love
That's all.
both.
I feel like
Those are
you're
the
gravitating
two.
more and more and more and more towards that,
Right.
based especially on what we watched this weekend.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I got to watch 90 Day Fiance
Yeah.
because he had to leave and go help a friend with their car.
Yeah.
So I got to watch 90 Day Fiance. But other than that hour and a half, 2 hours that I watched, oh, and I got a little bit of live PD in there. We basically watched documentaries and what was the
She makes it sound
Knights
like
Templar.
She
No, but
makes
I mean
it sound
I
like I
enjoy
duct
it.
tape her to the chair and make her watch this
There's
stuff.
times that I'll put my headphones in, watch my own thing. But
Bridget says she has a friend that lives in
I know, I
Thailand.
saw that.
So Bridget, we're gonna need some information.
I'd like to know
Maybe
if
we
it's
can talk to the
northern
teacher, and then we can
or
figure
southern
out maybe some
Thailand.
things.
Ooh, yes, girl trip.
Okay, so
I'm good with that.
yeah,
Where are you and Sean going? Go to Arizona.
Yeah. So let's go back. So which one did we watch first? Was it the Knights Templar?
Versus what? What was the other thing? We watched
the
Knights
one about
Templar.
the bodies that were found in the desert.
Let the bodies hit the floor. That's what I just thought.
Yeah.
Bodies in the desert were second.
That was second.
Yeah,
okay,
we watched Knights Templar first.
Okay, so while we're on the religion topic, because the Knights Templar goes into the religious topic a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit.
But I thought the Knights Templar had a lot more to do with religion than it does.
Yeah. So this guy, so this is on the Gaia Network. I don't know if you have that, or maybe you can find it on YouTube. But the title of the series is The 900-Year Secret of the Knights Templar.
Yeah, it was fascinating. If you like that kind of stuff.
It's about 2.5 hours long. I don't know. So I think about 2.5 hours long. It's 2 parts. So it's an hour and 15 and an hour and 20 or something. I don't know, something like that. Anyway, it is absolutely fascinating. So first thing that he talks about then blew my mind was we all understand the Knights Templar to be these brave warriors who fought all these wars.
Like Christian Crusaders.
Yeah,
that's totally what I thought.
Nope. Never happened.
Yeah, I thought they were just like dying left and right and new Templar people needed to come in.
That's not real. The Knights Templar actually fought very little. There's only select few battles that they were ever involved in.
They were more like just peaceful pilgrims.
They were more or less
traveled
monks.
Yeah.
So that blew my mind. And he doesn't just say it; he presents factual evidence behind it.
Like Freddie Silva.
Silva's his last name.
Silva's, yeah.
I think. Yeah. He's got a couple books out about the whole topic,
and we've seen him on other things too.
Yeah.
So I mean,
yeah. So that's number one that I thought was absolutely fascinating. The Knights Templar, in my mind, are nothing but a bunch of warriors who were protecting expensive stuff.
Jewels and gold and
So there's that. The other part that he gets into that I found really fascinating was the Holy Grail,
which I didn't know what the Holy Grail was.
It's supposedly a cup. It's literally a cup. I mean, that's the way it's described, as a cup.
Yeah,
However,
and I just knew Monty Python, and I barely even remember that. So
yeah. So the Holy Grail has nothing to do with a cup.
No.
It's got nothing to do with a cup at all. Matter of fact,
it's like more figurative.
It's a figurative, it's a figurative item that it's literally more about. The Holy Grail is more about finding internal peace and acceptance and knowledge.
But there was actually a physical thing, but wasn't it like a rock?
It was a rock.
It's like
not a cup.
Yeah.
It was a rock. Yeah. And then
magical rock.
Yeah. So the Holy Grail they refer to as the so they say the Holy Grail was on a scepter. If I'm saying that wrong.
Yeah, the silver.
It's a scepter,
platter.
Which is nothing more than a platter, but the platter is silver.
Which is feminine.
The Holy Grail is gold,
which is masculine.
It literally means to combine the two. It doesn't actually mean cup or platter. It literally means that you are he basically gets into like the figurative version of what it means, and it's not. Again, these are things that are backed up by Knights Templar documents that he shows that blew me away. He
did like 15 years of research doing this. Like he's been purely working on this for 15 years.
Right. So literally what the tray means is you are serving knowledge and power and like wisdom to somebody else. Like you are a servant of the knowledge. You're a servant of the power. You're a servant of the wisdom. So
that's the Holy Grail. Like
that's the Holy Grail.
The Holy Grail that they protected was that knowledge they passed on.
Literally was knowledge and wisdom. That's what the Holy Grail is. It's not an item.
But there's also, they do talk about like treasures and fortunes and stuff like that. So I mean, they had to build all the castles and do all the journeys and stuff that they did.
Well, partly, except the kings used to just hand over. I mean, the way the documents look, it looks like they just hand over castles and temples and sacred places to these Knights Templar. Like, makes no sense. And he goes into super detail about all of that. And
there was even something about the Pope, like, had almost like given permission, or I don't think the window's unlocked.
Oh, dang it.
That they had like given, the Pope had like basically said, you guys are good.
Yeah.
But not like a religious way, more like you do your thing.
Well, they tricked him. Yeah. So basically what happened was the Knights Templar tricked the Pope into believing that they were there to protect Christianity, Catholicism at the time. And that's not at all what they were doing. They were literally trying to protect their own ideology.
Right.
But they pull a little whoop-de-woo, trick the Pope, and next thing you know, they're being handed land and information from the church.
Yeah.
Like, they ended up
go do your thing.
Yeah. So Portugal actually became a huge part of this whole conversation.
Which never heard that before either. I think England when I think Knights Templar, not Spanish.
Me, it's like French. I always think of the French, or
I guess the French too.
English.
But not Spain. Not until Curse of Oak Island did I even like put Knights Templar in Spain.
So they go into what?
Sean's asking about your shirt. We will defend.
This we will defend. Yeah, it's Golden Knights. Merca. Grunt style. Yeah.
I got that for him because I'm like number one wife.
So thank you. Appreciate it. So they get into the origins of the Knights Templar. And the misconception is that the Knights Templar was formed around 1111 AD. However, in 1107 AD, they were given 1/3 of the nation state of Portugal. This is 4 years prior to what we know as in modern history to be when the Knights Templar was formed. So the Knights Templar had existed
like 300 years before.
Yeah, hundreds of years before. And this is all documented that he found in a book in Harvard. Like some random book that was like I don't know how he figured out it was there.
Animal
or whatever.
hide.
Animal hide.
It was written on animal hide.
And anyway, so the Knights Templar is an old thing. And when the Pope and the Knights Templar reached an agreement, there were only 9 Knights Templars. 9. And they were supposed to protect this pilgrimage road, and that was the whole point, and blah 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 blah. It's all not true. 100% not true. Their idea was to find knowledge and wisdom. And what they used to do, if you look at all these holy sites that the Knights Templar was in control of, they would take control of these places that were in places on Earth that were magnetic, like super fields, basically. The entrance to every one of those castles that they owned, the entrance allowed positive energy. The architecture was crazy.
Insane.
Right. But everything was underground. So that's the one part where this gets really, really interesting from a religious standpoint. So everything's underground. They're all secret passages. There are all these tombs that are everywhere.
These like wells that are dug out, but they're not really
wells because
wells.
they can't hold water, but they call them wells because they don't know what else to call them. Well, so through some of the processes of this guy reading some of this information, they kept talking about being reborn, and he couldn't figure out the correlation between being reborn and
like
what the Knights Templar had to do with it.
The Bible versus this, and it's
right. And if anyone's familiar with the Masons, to become a 3rd degree Mason, you have to be reborn. And part of the ceremony is they blindfold you, they lay you on the ground, they do some chanting and some other things. I've never been a part of it.
Ooh.
It's secret, but we know this happens. And then they raise you from the dead. And when you stand up, you are reborn. And so he figured that and the parallels between what the Knights Templar were practicing. So what they used to do was they would induce a coma for 3 days, which conveniently happens to be the same as the resurrection story of Jesus Christ.
And there's like 28.
But prior to Jesus Christ being resurrected, there are 23 documented cases of resurrections. And there's
written documentation.
Written documentation.
Yeah, resurrection is brought up. Right.
And there are some people that you've heard of, like Plato, Newton. Who were that? There was who was the other star guy?
Socrates.
No,
I don't know.
Nostradamus, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, there are key figures in history who've been quote unquote resurrected. And what happens is they induce this coma, they put them in a cave or a cave-like system, and then they block the front.
Or the esophagus, whatever that's the sarcophagus.
Sarcophagus. Yeah, or they put them in a sarcophagus.
Like thing.
Yeah. And then they close it off. And 3 days later, they come back. And when they come out, on the 3rd day, when they're come out, they're considered reborn. They see the morning sun and it's a new life. And that's where a lot of these stories all originate from.
Yeah, it was basically like sensory deprivation.
Yep.
And when you have that sensory deprivation, you're supposed to go into a different, like transcend into a different reality, I guess. And so coming out of that is the resurrection or being reborn.
Right.
So
yeah, and it's a trip. So I had never heard that was a thing.
I mean, it's so much can be lost in translation from like old documents too, and it's so much is up to interpretation and things. And it was definitely a different way to look at the term resurrection and reborn.
Right. Well, and that's another interesting thing too was when they found the Dead Sea Scrolls, which were in 3 different languages. They're in Aramaic, Hebrew, and Islam.
I don't remember.
Islamic?
I just remember
Hebrew, Aramaic, and Sanskrit. Maybe I don't know. I can't. Anyway, it doesn't matter. When they found the Dead Sea Scrolls, there were people. They were sheep herders that found them originally. It wasn't an archaeological dig. It was the sheep herders that found them. Well, the sheep herders went and sold portions of them to make money. And then the other portion they burnt.
Yeah, like a third portion.
There's like a third of the Dead Sea Scrolls that are missing. They
used it for fire.
They used them for fire. Yeah. Then there were books that were found that were never translated until hundreds of years later. And part of this information is tied directly to the Knights Templar and how they obtained some of the information. And
they traveled a lot. That was another thing is they did a lot of like sea navigation too.
I hope that guy that was talking about Columbus, maybe he's on here right now. That'd be great because 40 years prior to Columbus even setting sail.
Oh, I think that was my brother.
The Knights Templar had gone to Newfoundland and had established a country already. It already there's documented
like St. John's, Newfoundland or something.
Yeah. So there's actually
after John the Baptist.
There's documented proof now that Newfoundland was established 40 years prior to Columbus ever even getting in a boat.
Yeah, before even getting
right. And there's a little bit of historical guesswork with this guy as far as the Columbus and Knights Templar goes, because he basically made it sound like the Knights Templar are like, oh yeah, if you just go that way, you'll get to this spot. And like almost saying that the Knights Templar are the reason Columbus ended up going on the trip that sail the blue and all that nonsense that they teach you in school.
It's like I have trouble believing anything anymore. This guy though, like I mean, he did some research and he even says while he's speaking, like, this is what I found and this is how I took it. And like this and this makes sense that it equals whatever. Right. But it wasn't like matter of fact. It was like, well, this is over here and this is over here, which the only way you can have those two things is if this happened, kind of thing. So it's a lot of like very logical theories, more based on facts and things that he did find, but yeah, I mean, it's not exact timelines in a lot of things, but there were, you know what I'm talking about, like there were different things that were brought up that were more like, you can't have this without this, or so
yeah, there was a lot of there's a lot of stuff. I mean,
a lot smarter than either one of us, that's for sure.
Yeah, that guy, he speaks like 6 languages or something like that. But anyway, so he has a lot of information. So if you get a chance to watch it and you want to spend some time learning about the Knights Templar, it's a great watch. The guy's funny. He cracks jokes along the way.
Yeah.
It's called the 900-Year Secret of the Knights Templar. It's a great show. There's so much information. And they show
some cool things.
He goes and gives a tour of like Portugal, and not physically, but through the slideshow, he gives you some information and shows some of these castles and some of the architecture. Like that one
makes me want to go.
There's what appears to be a well that's about 8 foot around, but as you go down, it's a staircase and there's archways all the way down the entire thing with pillars that are absolutely pristine.
It looks like something out of a Hollywood movie where you have a secret society that's in a well down underground. Like it's so beautiful, and I do not know how they made it.
No idea.
It's pretty cool.
But it's pretty interesting. It's one of those you have to see it to believe it kind of thing. Because if somebody told me that existed, like there's these perfect archways underground and there's a stairwell behind them, and I would have been like, yeah, okay, that's a cool movie. Like,
in my head, I think legitimate. It takes like so long to make those things and to dig out this stuff. Like I just can't understand how they do it.
They had the technology and things. We just haven't found the proof of where they got what technology they had.
Yeah,
we don't know. That's the thing. We just don't know how they were doing it. Right. So the other show that we watched that again was absolutely mind blowing was Unearthing Nazca.
Oh yeah.
That's another show that will blow your mind. There are aliens buried in the desert in, was it Peru?
Yeah, it's like
Peru,
coastal Peru.
Yeah. And most people have heard of the Nazca lines. If you haven't,
I didn't know they were called Nazca lines. When I saw a picture of what they are, I knew what they were.
Right.
But I didn't know that was the name of them.
Yeah. So if you don't know what the Nazca lines are, just to give you an idea, they're lines drawn in the desert that you can only see from a very high elevation, but there are no points of elevation from very long ways around these things. They're huge.
There's like a spider.
There's a spider. There's an alien. There's a bird. There's a lizard. There's
like you would know. I don't know how to spell it. Do you know how to spell it?
Nazca?
Yeah. If somebody wanted to look it up.
It's Nazca. Nazca.
That's it. Okay. Well, that was easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you Google it, you'll see it.
Yeah. Anyway, so this guy, he's a grave robber.
Illegal. No big deal.
He's what?
It's illegal.
Yeah, whatever. And he goes out to the Nazca Desert and somehow unearths bodies. They look like what we would see in a movie as E.T. or an alien.
Yeah.
They're 3-fingered and they're long, like
long 3 fingers.
Long.
Cone, like
they got a cone head. they're curled up and they're in what they call
like a fetal position in one of
what's
them.
that dirt they call it? What was that dirt
Oh
called?
gosh,
Something earth.
Something with a D. Diatrus. I don't know.
I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, so they're mummified and they're very well preserved. And they're 7 or 8 that we saw are all covered in this white powder.
Yeah.
That's from these caves that are around Nazca.
I can't remember.
So scientists from Canada, Russia, America, Peru, I think there was one in Europe somewhere.
The French guy.
Yeah. So there were scientists from all over the world that went down to Peru to investigate these bodies that were found.
To see if they were real, right? So they went down there trying to prove that they were a hoax.
Right. They wanted to make sure that whatever it was, information was getting put out, that it was legitimate or not.
And this was the Gaia Network too, because it was Gaia producers. And that went down there.
So this team of experts from all over the world that represent probably 6 or 7 countries show up and they see these bodies and everyone's, they're fake. They're a hoax. They've been cropped and manipulated.
Yeah, like fingers have been broken off to make it 3.
And that's all per the Peruvian government. Because they don't want anything to do with these alien bodies because they're afraid it will take away from their culture.
And they didn't want to give any credence to the grave robbers.
Right. So they take these bodies and they scan them, they x-ray them, they put them in these
they take DNA
3D,
samples.
They take DNA samples. There's just a huge amount of testing that goes on with these bodies that they find in the middle of nowhere. So
in different labs in different countries, like different people. It wasn't just like one scientist that did this.
So Russia took some DNA samples back. They took all the photographs. Canada took some samples and some photographs. France took some. America took some. Gaia Network took their own. They did their own.
Yeah.
And guess what they found out? They're 100% a biological creature that is not human.
It's only like, what was the percentage? Like 25%?
The highest match in any part of the world that any one of these scientists could figure out, the highest percentage of DNA match that they had was 25%. So one of two things. It's either another form of human that we've never known, or it's an alien. And I'm telling you, look at these things. Like it is the Hollywood version of an alien.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
it's weird is that they're not that big, right? Because I always think of grays as like being bigger, but they're not. So how tall do you think the biggest one was?
Okay, so the big one that they refer to as Maria. She was an adult woman. Like I would say probably 5 foot. Like
you think she was 5 foot with the legs and everything? Okay.
Yeah.
So that was like a normal size, like big one.
But then there were 4 or 5 that were very, very small, like fully grown, but they were maybe 18 inches.
Yeah.
I'd say 2 foot
like
would
developed with like ribs,
fully
and
developed,
fingers, and
one of them was pregnant.
Toes. The little one was one of the little ones.
That's the one that had the bulge.
Oh, I was thinking it was one of the marine.
So they do this really cool 3D layered scan of Maria, the bigger version of like it's the full size adult looking one, and then they do another scan of these other ones. And basically, what happens, I think it's similar to a CT scan. I think
it's just like layers,
but it like microscopic layers after layer, and it scans the entire body.
They did that for like the King Tut stuff too.
Right. So what they found was, it's 100% not put together. So one of the theories was that this grave robber wanted to start some trend, and he took parts of different bodies of animals and creatures and stuck them together, and then put this plaster on them, and then said, "Hey, look what I found." That's not what happened. They are all the Maria, the big one. Her head, her arms, her legs, and her pelvic region are all of the same animal, or creature, whatever it is. Yeah. So the DNA matched from head to toe. So there was no variation from a different animal. So there's no way for that to be real. Then they get down to the little one, and they figure out that she's got these rocks that look like rocks in her stomach.
They did look like
They-
rocks,
they-
because there's like this weird metal looking
There's a metal plate.
grate, like a bracket or something.
Yeah. It almost looked like a bra, like a metal bra.
Yeah, or
without
holding
straps.
the chest. Yeah, I don't know what that
Yeah, I don't.
was.
And they never explained what that was.
But there was like a
it was-
metal object or something that was like holding the chest.
Yeah, but it was 100% embedded in the body. It
Yeah.
wasn't separate. And then they found what they look like, little rocks. They're egg shaped. They're actually more like kidney bean shaped. But then as they scanned them, they found out one of them was pregnant. Inside
one
the
of
egg
those,
was an
it's like
embryo.
they were eggs almost. It
Yeah,
really was
they
like they
were
were
eggs.
chicken eggs.
Yeah.
And that there was like an embryo in it.
Right. So when you
Which
get
is
down and look,
Weird.
scan through this image, there's a full embryo inside one of those. Hey,
Which is so weird because it was
It's-
so little. Like this little alien
yeah.
maxed out at 18 inches. What are you looking at?
I'm trying to give. So it was probably
Yeah,
like the size
blue.
of the blue of the
Yeah.
American flag. That's probably as tall as the alien was.
The little alien.
The smaller
bodies.
one, right? And this thing, like the big one, Maria, that was what looked like to be a full size adult human, had the same features as the smaller guys that were the size of the flag. Like it was, it's an absolute trip. But they are clearly not human. They are some sort of biological creature. There are X chromosomes that they found in Maria, and then the headless one, which I can't remember what they called that one.
Is X female? Or is it Y?
Yeah, X
Oh.
is female.
I was going to look up pictures really quick.
Oh, yeah. So there are X and Y chromosomes that they're able to identify. It's absolutely dumbfounding that this is real, and we have people that still, for some reason, don't want to believe. I don't get it.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like again,
I mean, it's still hard. Look, I mean, it's basically the history guy is giving us this information. It's hard to understand what it is when you have so many countries coming up with the same ideas.
Right.
Or not knowing. And they even said that, like, sometimes you'll get one lab that will come up with one result and another lab that may come up with something a little bit different based on equipment or testing. But these were the same.
They're all the same.
Everything
across the world.
They couldn't.
Yeah.
There wasn't one
From-
that was
From Russia to Canada to America, France, and even the scientists in Peru. They all had the same results. That they matched the exact same amount of DNA to humans, and they couldn't figure out what it was related to.
Yeah. Or they think that it's like an unknown species, whether it's, extinct or just not been found yet. But I mean, they look so much like what the stories of aliens have been like, and even like the Roswell and all of that. Like it looks exactly like that. So whether it's
Right.
because
and side note, real quick, sidetrack thing. For those of you that are super deep alien conspiracy people, if you've ever seen Patient 17 or Patient 11, I can't
patient something.
Patient the one where they do the autopsy on the alien that was from Roswell. If you ever seen that video, that alien looks very similar to the bodies that were found in Nazca.
I'm having a hard time finding it. Well, this
that's
is
it.
Maria.
Yeah, that's Maria.
Hold on, I'm going to see if I can. Oh, that's not working. Look how creepy that is. Oh my God, it's so creepy.
Yeah, so if you get a chance to watch that show, it's called Unearthing Nazca.
Oh, there's another thing called Alien Mummies of Peru. We might have to watch that one too.
Yeah.
Because this is one of those things that, like, I don't think that they just scratched the surface with it.
So that's the other thing that they were talking about. So the joints on these bodies. So, like, for example, my wrist can go like that. Their wrist can only go like that.
On the smaller ones, I think it said.
Yeah.
Was that on Maria too?
I'm pretty sure it was on all of them. The way they made it sound was that they were all structured the same. And so their wrists can only move up and down. Their knees are exactly the same. As far as where they bend, their thighs are a little bit longer, but their knees were not, you couldn't bend them fully back. Like, we could sit down and cross our legs Indian style.
Right.
They weren't able to do that. They could only get their leg back so far when they walked. So it wasn't a full bend like we're able to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's super interesting if you get a chance to watch it. It's
I would be surprised now if something came out and said that they weren't real, just because of the different scientists from the different countries and different labs. But the guy with the grave robber guy was like really secretive, didn't want to take them to the cave where he found him, like doesn't want to give over some of the mummies. So
there's some weird.
There's not like a full disclosure, like a full like.
But when they did, what they did gather in the X-rays and the CAT scans and the DNA samples, like they were able to gather a lot of information from I want to say it was a half, maybe 3/4.
How many they had
of the bodies? I don't know. It was quite a few.
Well, and there was one that the head fell off, and so they were able to get DNA off of the neck, like the vertebrae area.
Right. It's stuff. I don't know. Anyway, it's worth looking into.
Yeah.
But there's aliens, and if you don't believe it, that's your fault.
Well, watch it and then let us know what you think.
They're real. Let us know. But
well, you got your work cut out for you because we went through a few shows. We have Scientology.
Yeah. So America's Book of Secrets.
Yep.
Was one.
Knights Templar.
The Knights Templar, 900 Secret of the Knights, 900-year-old secret of the Knights Templar, and the Unearthing Nazca. All of them are super, super informational.
And 90 Day Fiance. I'm just kidding. I just like saying it because I know it irks you.
Whatever. I mean, that's you. You like it. So
anyone that watches it knows you don't want to like it or admit that you watch it because it's so bad. It's just hard to not watch.
Nope. Pretty easy.
Not for you.
You just don't turn it on. It's
I need to get caught up.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of our weekend in a nutshell. And there was something that happened over the weekend that I don't know if this is the right place to say this.
What?
I baked a cake.
Oh. You did from scratch.
Yeah, I've never baked
pineapple upside down cake from scratch.
Bake.
And it turned out good.
Yeah,
I don't know if I've ever even had one, but it was good because it's not super sweet. Like it's like perfect, like but you did and he didn't make it I was really worried about the mess and that he just was gonna get flour everywhere, but you did really good.
Thank
you.
You
contained everything to like one end of our counter.
Well, I knew part of the reason this was happening was because I'm a disaster in the kitchen, not food wise. I can cook.
You can cook. Yeah.
I can barbecue with the best of them. I can smoke food. I'm okay with it, but I cannot do anything without making a mess.
That's true.
There's shit everywhere.
Definitely have to clean up after you.
I cannot cook.
You never put a paper towel down underneath the spoon that you're using to stir on the stove. There's always stuff on the counter.
Yep. Yeah, I'm terrible. I can't. I make a mess when I cook.
You did good though.
And I knew part of the reason why I was required to bake this cake was because they wanted proof of how disastrous the kitchen looks when I'm done.
Now I'm trying to recruit you to make other stuff.
Yeah, now she wants me to bake
everything.
And then
our youngest has a birthday on Friday.
Yep.
And so I'm trying to get him to bake the cake.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the cake.
But it's hardcore.
It's super crazy.
It's a red velvet cake, so
I don't. Apparently, that's fancy chocolate, but
there's a little bit to it.
We're gonna find out, and we'll see how it goes.
Anyways,
yeah. So
are we coming back on Wednesday or Friday?
Let's do Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do Monday, Wednesday, and then we'll leave Friday.
Party and
do whatever it is we do on the weekends. Clearly not us, but yeah. So we'll be back. We're gonna start doing our shows twice a week. Monday. God damn it, I can't even get it right when I say it.
I don't know. Monday, Wednesday might be too close, so we'll have to figure
Thursday?
it out.
How about Monday and another day of the week?
Yeah, Monday, Thursday is better because it's not as close, and we don't have any TV shows to watch on Thursday.
Oh, that's right. Wednesday reserved.
We have shows on Mondays and Wednesdays.
You want to do Thursday?
Let's do Thursday.
Okay, Mondays and Thursdays.
Yeah. Okay, we'll just go.
Solved.
We're either here or we're not.
Okay, Monday, Thursday.
I don't think. Yeah.
No, it's not Chef Jesse, dude. Look.
Yes. He cooked the best meal the other night. And I know it's totally one of those guy things. He like puts shit together and it just comes out amazing. But that pasta, sausage soup, I don't even know what to call it, but it was so good. And it was actually enjoyable leftovers because we don't really eating leftovers.
As a leftover, actually.
And it was gone. So we're going to have to do that.
Yeah. So
it was so good.
All right. But here's
so bad for you.
This is the thing about being poor, single, and then single dad. Like you learn how to use what you got. And I didn't have a lot. And so I had a lot of soups that nobody would ever eat, like asparagus or chicken or mushroom.
Cream of stuff.
Right. And everybody always has those 99-cent bags of pasta laying around, right? Well,
it wasn't cheap, but it was a cheaper meal.
Well, the only reason it was expensive is because I got fancy sausage. I never get fancy sausage back like when I was doing this normally.
Right.
But
it's like hot dogs.
Right. Hot dogs, or you get those.
So it was pasta. Tell them what's in it.
All right. So I don't know if anyone actually cares. Okay. So it's
Sean asked.
Cream of potato, cream of chicken, cream of mushroom with
1 can of each.
Yeah. No, that's not true.
Oh my God. More than that?
Yeah. It's 3 cans of mushroom. Yeah, 3 cans of mushroom. 2 cans of the potato and 1 can of the chicken.
This is a $50 pot.
Those are like they're like $1 a piece. Anyway, it lasted like 3 days.
6 cans of soup.
It's 6 cans of soup, and then you do pasta. You do sausage. I always do the andouille sausage because it's the best.
Broccoli. Cut up broccoli.
And then from there, it's up to you. Like if some people add peas, carrots, like you can do all that kind of stuff. You can add, basically what ended up happening was the vegetable would get substituted for whatever's in the fridge.
Yeah.
Sometimes asparagus, sometimes broccoli. The meat would get substituted for whatever. If you need to put hot dogs.
I didn't realize you used that much. That's why it was so thick and creamy.
Yeah, but
did you put milk in it because
yes.
it's condensed?
Yeah. So I only use, so there's I think 4 or 5 of them require it, and I always use 1 less can than they
to make it thicker.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it was good.
It's really good. But you
there's like the potato,
stuff.
Like the different textures. There's like little chunks of potato from the soup.
Right. So so
good.
But that recipe has been done 100 different times because I don't always have those options. Sometimes I don't have cream of mushrooms, so I use cream of asparagus. Sometimes I didn't have broccoli. Like if you have carrots, why would you have them? I don't know, but if you did, you use them.
Yeah.
Right. So it's one of those things that you just kind of
wing
it.
You did good.
But that's how I used to do top ramen though. Like top ramen.
I feel like every time you cook, you do good. You don't cook very often, but you're pretty good. Yeah. You're really good at throwing shit together. That's like random.
Yeah, so. Well, that's what I lived off of for a lot of years. So I just got used to making it.
You are kind of random anyway.
Right. Anyway, so yeah, we'll be back Thursday. And then hit us up with questions, comments. Like if you guys have show suggestions, we'll hop on those. I was supposed to watch Bewitched, and as much as I love my family,
you were assigned Bewitched.
I'm not paying to watch Bewitched. But yeah, so send us some ideas, suggestions. We'll do anything that it's not too crazy, or maybe it will be crazy and that'd be fun. I don't know. But anyway,
I'm hungry and I'm hot, so I'm ready to go.
It's freaking hot. Yeah. So we'll see you guys Thursday.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys. There it is again.